Louis! It's time to go, he could hear Mom yell from downstairs. He got up from the chair in front of his computer and stuck his head out into the hallway to call down to her, "Have a nice night." By the time he was sitting down in front of the computer again, she was opening the door to his room. "Come on, you have to go next door. The Garners and I have our grown-up nights every other week. You know how this works by now. Why can't I just stay here by myself? I can microwave some leftovers for dinner. Do we have to have this discussion every time? You can't be left alone in the late evening until you're 12, it's the law. Now turn the game off and go, we are already running late." Louis sighed dramatically and logged out of the game. That match had been a lost cause anyway, he'd gotten grouped with a bunch of noobs. The Garners were standing out front by their car by the time Louis's mom herded him over. Mom handed her Saturday night duffel bag to Mr. Garner, who added it to the other bags in the back seat, and she and Mrs. Garner did that weird air kiss the cheek thing that they always did. Mr. Garner got in the car beside the bags. "Priscilla! Louis is here," Mrs. Garner shouted toward the back of the house as she got in. Priscilla had been named for some great-aunt that was supposed to be leaving her namesake a crap ton of money when and if she ever kicked it, but she never went by her full name. Prissy came running from the backyard waving to her parents and Louis's mom. "You kids be good," his mom called from the passenger seat as the car pulled away. "Come on," Prissy said, taking Louis by the hand and leading him. "Missy's in the backyard." Missy's full name was Melissa, but she never used it either. It was almost like something from a cartoon, twins named Missy and Prissy. Missy was dragging a plastic wading pool across the back lawn with ease. She was wearing shorts and a top just like Prissy but swapped. Missy had a yellow top with black shorts, Prissy had white shorts with a dark blue top, the kind with really thin straps. "Isn't it a little late for a swim?" Louis joked. These pools were too small for him to swim in, and at 13 the girls were even taller than he was. "Funny," Missy smirked, tossing the pool where she wanted it, about 10 feet away from the other one. "We figured we'd play a fun little game before we ordered dinner." "Sissy in the middle dot." Louis groaned. "What are we, 5?" Prissy put her hands on his shoulders from behind so suddenly it almost made him jump. "It's way more fun the way we play it. If the sissy can't get the ball in 3 minutes, they have to do a forfeit for whoever has the ball at the timer. Everyone gets 2 turns as sissy, play for who has to go first." Missy held her hand out towards her sister. They bounced their fists on their open palms, counting 1, 2, 3, and then Prissy stuck out 2 fingers while Missy kept her fist closed. "Rock breaks scissors, I'm not sissy." Prissy turned to Louis. As he was counting up, he did a quick tally. Prissy had just lost to rock, so she was most likely to change to that. On the count of 3, Louis extended all his fingers and laid his hand flat. Sure enough, Prissy had a closed fist. "Paper wraps rock," Louis said, stepping into the other wading pool to mirror Missy. Missy picked up a soft rubber ball that had sat at her feet while Prissy set up a kitchen timer on the steps of the back porch. "Don't step out of the pool or you lose the round to the sissy, and that means you have to do the forfeit." "What is the forfeit?" Louis asked as Prissy sprinted from the back steps to the middle of the yard between the 2 pools. "Whatever the winner says it is," Missy said before pausing to throw the ball past her sister to Louis, calling, "Sissy in the middle," as she did. "Like giving them your dessert or they have to play the game you want, whatever." Louis had easily caught the ball and now Prissy was trying to make her way over to him. She was faster than he expected and cleared the distance before he was ready to throw. He turned his back to Prissy, forcing her to circle around the pool to stay in front of him. As soon as she started circling though, Louis turned back. "Sissy in the middle," Louis chuckled as Prissy almost fell down trying to keep up with the change in direction, but it had been an easy toss back to Missy. Prissy was barely halfway to her sister before Missy called, "Sissy in the middle," and threw the ball back to Louis. It seemed to take longer than Louis had thought before the timer finally went off. Louis was holding the ball when it did. "Okay," Prissy puffed, just a little winded from the running around, "I owe you a forfeit. You can use it any time tonight." Take off your shirt, Louis blurted, even before he had really thought it through. What? You're old enough to wear a bra, right? I want to see it. Your forfeit is you have to take off your shirt. Missy shrugged. It's his call. Prissy grumbled but complied. Her bra had super skinny straps over her shoulder, even skinnier than her top. It was dark gray in color and Louis could see there was starting to be some growth underneath it. Prissy swept her dark brown hair toward over her shoulders, even though it wasn't long enough to cover her bra. He wasn't sure why he'd chosen this as his forfeit, he had just been curious. He played online games with lots of older guys and even a few girls. He'd heard them talk about boobies and bras and stuff before and he just wondered what they were like. Okay, match for who has to go next, Missy said. Louis thought it out again. Missy had one with rock, she would stay with that, so he should stay with paper. But he was unlucky, Missy had switched to scissors, probably anticipating that Louis would keep with paper after winning with it. Prissy stepped into the pool as Louis got out and went over to the stairs where the timer sat. He twisted it to 3 minutes and then set it down. Both girls had their hands behind their back. Which one of them had the ball? He circled around Missy first, but after a few seconds he caught a glimpse of her hands. No ball. I didn't have the ball last round, silly. You did, which means it goes to Prissy. Louis groaned. How much time had he already wasted? He rushed to Prissy, who was blushing madly over standing there in her bra. Sissy in the middle, she called, lobbing the ball high over Louis. He put his hands up to try and catch it but couldn't reach. If the last round had seemed stretched out, this round seemed way too short as the girls tossed the ball back and forth over his head out of his reach. Finally the timer dinged and Prissy was holding the ball. All right, Missy's turn, so you trade places with her, Prissy said, but she was stepping out of her pool as she said it. She ran up the porch steps calling over her shoulder, I'll be right back. I guess she's going to get a new top or something? Louis put the question to Missy as they traded. I don't know, but she better not be, that was her forfeit. Louis wasn't sure he believed that Missy didn't know what Prissy was up to. They always seemed to be in sync. Prissy came back out of the house. Take off your shoes and put on these. She handed Louis a pair of shoes, girls' shoes. They were obviously girls' shoes, they even had a heel that was raised by an inch, maybe even 2. What are these? He stared at them, they were strappy and white. My mom bought them for me for special occasions, but I'll let you wear them just this once. I don't want to wear them. Tough luck, Missy put in. You were Sissy in the middle and you lost. This is your forfeit. It was just as hard trying to keep the ball away from Missy as it had been Prissy, since they were both so much taller than Louis, maybe even more so since Prissy didn't seem to want to put herself into her throws. Maybe she was afraid of her bra slipping? Eventually Missy managed to get a finger on the ball as Louis threw it, causing it to roll off to the side. Louis started to run toward the ball to try and get to it first, but as he stepped out of the pool, the heel of his shoes caught on the edge and he stumbled, falling on his stomach on the grass. You got out of our pool. My win, Missy gloated. But I'll save my forfeit for later. Prissy's turn. Missy picked up the ball before trading places with her sister. You gave the ball to the sissy, so I get to start the round with it. After about 2 minutes of tossing the ball back and forth, one of Louis's throws went wide and Missy couldn't reach it. That was pitcher's fault. There was no way I could have reached that. Next up was Louis's turn. He had not predicted how much different it would be trying to run in these shoes. They had no traction, stopping or changing direction was a risky prospect, and so even he was not surprised when the timer ran down before he could get the ball. Prissy had the ball when it did. So that is 2 forfeits you owe me now. 2? But isn't wearing these shoes my first forfeit? It is, Missy admitted, but she's right. You won the first round and she was Sissy, so she owed you forfeit which you gave her. Then you were Sissy and she won, so she gave you a forfeit back. Right. Louis wasn't following this. And then I stepped out of my pool. Right, Prissy agreed. So you lost that round and Missy was Sissy, so you owe her a forfeit for that. Then I was Sissy again and you messed up the throw. Like Missy said, that was the pitcher's fault, so you lost that round and owed me a forfeit. Now I won this round and you are the Sissy, so you owe me another one. Wait, so I give up a forfeit if I lose, even if I don't get out of the pool? Well, yeah, losing is what costs you the forfeit. Stepping out of the pool is just one way that you can lose when you aren't the Sissy. If the Sissy gets the ball, whoever's at fault loses that round. It was Missy's last turn as Sissy, and Louis already had 3 outstanding forfeits. He really didn't want another one. He played it pretty safe, trying to maneuver a clear throw before passing the ball to Prissy. The timer had to be running close when a high toss from Prissy went over his head. Louis reached up to catch it, but the ball passed between his arms and rolled across the grass out of reach. Catcher's fault, Missy identified as she ran over to where the ball had stopped and picked it up. That wasn't my fault, Louis protested. The throw was over my head. But not out of your reach. You could have caught that throw, but you missed, so you owe each of us 2 forfeits. So are we done playing this game? Louis couldn't wait to get these silly shoes off. Missy nodded. Yup. Let's go inside. We still have a bit before it is time to order dinner, and I know the game I want to play next. Hey, what are you doing? Both sisters were looking at Louis, who was hopping on one foot, struggling with the buckle that held the left shoe on. The game is over. Can't I take these off? I'm sure Prissy would rather put on a shirt too, but our forfeits last until bedtime, Missy said. I can't wear these things all night, Louis protested. They'll be perfect for our next game, Missy said. Come on, upstairs. They all went to Prissy's room. Now, until it is time for dinner, we can play another fun game with you, Louis. She paused and then both sisters said in perfect time, makeover. Louis did not like the sound of that. Whoa, hold on. I don't want to play no stupid makeover game. Missy just smirked at him. Well, then I guess it is lucky for me that you owe me a couple of forfeits. Louis frowned. I'm not doing it. I never wanted to play these dumb games with forfeits and all this nonsense. You say that now, but when you won the first game you had no problem perving on me and asking to see my bra, Prissy challenged him. Yeah, what do you think, Prissy? Do you think his mother would be happy that his first thought upon winning a forfeit was that? Louis was pretty sure she wouldn't be happy, that was for sure. On the other hand, if you play along with our forfeits like a good little girl, I mean boy, we won't tell her anything. Fine, Louis grumbled. Let's get this over with. Take off your shirt, Prissy instructed as the girls started rifling through one of the bottom drawers of the dresser. Once he was stripped above the waist, the girls handed him a dress. It was soft, peach-colored and had embroidered flowers on the chest. He let them guide it over his head and his arms through the thin straps that so many of their clothes seemed to have. Finally, they pulled the skirt down to his knees. Okay, now take the rest off and put on these. Missy handed him a pair of underwear in the same color. Instead of flowers, they had a band of white lace running up each side. I can't wear these, Louis protested. Remember the rules, Prissy reminded him. If he is this upset over a pair of panties, imagine when he sees the dress, Missy said to her sister. What do you mean? I'm already wearing your dress, but I am not going to put on panties. Having something like this right up against his junk was out of the question. Both girls laughed, which made Louis' stomach flop. This isn't a dress, silly, this is a slip. You wear one underneath your dress. But if you really don't want to wear the panties, it is Missy's decision since this is her forfeit. Let me talk to her for a moment. While the girls went into a huddle and whispered, Louis just stared at the panties he'd been handed. They were super soft and smooth feeling, even more than the slip, but aside from that they weren't that different from his own underwear. Why did it bother him, the idea of putting these on? He couldn't explain it. He just wanted to keep his own underwear on underneath the slip, and the dress that would come after. Hey Sissy, Missy said, prompting Louis to look up from his thoughts. He heard the clicking sound of a camera before he realized she had her phone in her hand. He dropped the panties in a panic. "You can't take pictures of me like this." "Well, we had wanted to wait until after your makeover was finished," Prissy said from behind her own phone. "But we want to eat dinner eventually, so we don't have time for you to fight every step. I don't want you taking pictures of me like this at all, not now, and for sure not after." Missy came over to put an arm around Louis's shoulders. "Hey, it's okay. We're just having fun, okay? We won't show these pictures to anyone else, not ever." "Yeah, we have always wanted a little sister," Prissy added. "Hey Missy, what should we call her?" "Well, I think we can just keep calling her Sissy, since she's our sister. It can be short for Cecilia," Prissy realized. Missy, Prissy, and Sissy. Louis didn't feel as outraged at the suggestion as he might have thought he would. It did fit with their names. "Okay, I guess." He reached down and picked up the panties, which made his sisters cheer and clap excitedly. Thanks to the slip, he was able to swap his wife fronts for these panties without getting naked in front of the girls. That would have been too much. "So where is this dress?" "Makeup first, then dress," Missy informed him and led him over to a chair. As Missy was laying out their makeup on the dresser beside him, Prissy was looking up something on her phone. "We only just got our first makeup kits earlier this year, so this will be good practice for us," Prissy said, leaning her phone up against the mirror that stood atop the dresser. Louis wasn't sure if them only practicing was good or bad for him. "All right, ready?" Missy asked. Prissy nodded and tapped her phone, while Louis just sighed. "Hello friends," a chipper-sounding woman's voice came from the phone that was behind him as the girls turned his back to the mirror. "Today I'm joined by my daughter Lisa because I am going to be showing you how to do a flower girl style makeup." The girls followed along step by step with the video assaulting his face with brushes and powders, pencils and paints. He soon learned whenever the instructor gave directions to Lisa that he should do the same. The worst part was when they were running the brush right along the very edges of his eyes. He was afraid they were going to slip and poke him in the eye. He breathed a sigh of relief once that part was done. "Wow!" Missy exclaimed. "I think this is the best we've done yet." "You're right. Way better than anything we've done on each other. Should we show Sissy?" "Nah, let's get her in her dress first. Remember how much you hated these dresses back then?" Missy nodded. "We're going to let you wear my dress from when we were flower girls for our cousin's wedding a couple years ago. I thought we were too old to be flower girls, but I think the dress will look just as pretty on you as everyone else says they did on us." Louis couldn't help but groan. A flower girl dress? Really? He was expecting the worst as Missy brought a hanger out of their closet wrapped up in plastic. When she pulled the plastic off, Louis saw it was even worse than he had imagined. The sleeves were puffed up like balloons, and the whole thing was shiny and white. The skirt was flared out like a cone with a sort of mesh fabric over top, but he could still see the shiny fabric underneath. Prissy unzipped the dress as Missy held it out. "Step into your dress, Sissy." He couldn't do it. Louis couldn't bring himself to step into the dress. "It's easy, just put one foot in first, then the other." Prissy took his right leg and guided him to follow her directions. Then Prissy started to pull the dress up his body while Missy put her hands up under the dress to rearrange his slip. Once his arms were into the short sleeves, Prissy zipped it up in the back and he felt the soft smooth fabric close around his chest, trapping him. "So what do you think?" Missy asked her sister as both girls stepped back to evaluate their creation. "I think she still needs something. Oh, I know what." And with that, Prissy dashed back to the closet and rummaged around for a moment, tossing a few things aside before returning. She was holding one of those U-shaped hairbands. It was white and sported a large white bow on one side. Of course, Missy clapped excitedly. It wouldn't be right to wear this dress without the accessory. So Prissy put the headband on Louis, right above his eyes at first, but then she turned it so that it swept his hair off of his face. "Now she's perfect. Are you ready to see yourself, Sissy?" Louis really wasn't sure if he was. He felt so stupid, standing here in this dress. He could tell both girls were trying really hard not to laugh at him. He just stood there. Despite not wanting to see himself like this, he couldn't find the words to say no either. Missy put her arm around him. "It's okay. I want to walk you to the mirror. Is that okay?" Louis nodded and kept his head down, looking past the big skirt of his dress at the floor. He let her lead him. Prissy even took hold of his hand. "Okay." She gave his hand a pat. "Now look up." Louis struggled between the fear of seeing himself like this and the morbid curiosity. Best to do it like a band-aid, he thought, and jerked his head up. This was wrong. That couldn't be him. Was that a girl in the mirror? She certainly looked like a girl in that dress with the headband and bow, which made his shaggy brown hair look darker than normal. Her lips were just slightly pink and her eyes looked so big with the shimmer above them and the lashes longer and darker than any of the girls at school he'd ever seen. She was so pretty. How could that possibly be him? Sissy reached out towards the girl and, of course, she reached back. His fingers brushed the mirror, meeting tip to tip with the girl in the dress. At this moment Missy and Prissy exploded with giggles and clapping. All of a sudden the twins were hugging him from either side. "That really is me," he mumbled, half stunned. "It sure is." Louis could see in the mirror it was Prissy who answered. "But she's..." The word pretty caught in his throat. "Gorgeous?" Missy offered. "Of course she is. We wouldn't have our sister looking like anything less than a dream." Louis's face felt hot. Gorgeous? Dream? They had to be exaggerating. He barely even noticed the girls letting go of him and stepping away. He just stood transfixed by his reflection. That is until he heard the click of a camera phone. Louis groaned. "Do you have to take pictures?" "Of course," Missy smiled, snapping another shot. "I thought you would want to look back on how pretty you are. You promise no one will see these?" Louis couldn't bear the idea of someone else seeing these pictures, not even Mom, but especially not anyone else. "We'll put them in a cloud folder," Missy said. "Only the three of us can access them. We can even set it so that only you can give anyone else access," Prissy added. "And you both promise not to bring up the photos and show anyone else?" He didn't even really want Missy and Prissy to be able to keep these pictures, but as long as he had control over them it might be okay. Prissy pulled out her phone but wasn't pointing the camera at Louis. "Chubby burger okay for everyone?" Louis had been so thrown by all the stress up that he had forgotten all about dinner. While Prissy made the order with input from them, Missy was guiding Louis through a series of poses. "Put your hands in front of your skirt like this. Smile. This is how you curtsy." Eventually she seemed to decide she had enough pictures and they went downstairs and settled on the couch to watch a movie. Ordinarily Louis might have objected at the idea of a Disney princess movie, but given everything else that had happened to him it seemed fitting. He was enjoying the movie more than he had expected. So much so that he didn't even notice when Missy left the room. He only noticed when the doorbell rang and he heard Missy shout from the other room, "That's dinner, somebody get it." "What about you?" Prissy called back. "I'm in the bathroom. One of you has to get it." Louis glanced over at the door to make sure he couldn't be seen from there when the door was opened. "I can't get the door," Prissy argued. "I don't even have a shirt on." What be a terrifying possibility was starting to dawn on Louis. "You can't expect me to get it." The doorbell rang again. "I'll make it a forfeit," Prissy smiled. "Go answer the door and get our dinner." Louis groaned. If it was a forfeit he had no choice. Who knew what the girls would do if he didn't play by their rules? His heart was pounding as he went to the door. Prissy had taken a cushion off the couch to hide her chest just in case the delivery person could see from the door into the living room and catch a glimpse of her without her top. Louis wished he could hide like that. Finally he took a deep breath and answered the door. It was a woman, maybe not quite Mom's age, holding an insulated bag with the delivery company logo. "Hi there," she said in that tone grown-ups use when they talk to kids, especially young kids. "Are you Melissa?" Louis was halfway through a curtsy before he even thought about why. "I'm Sissy. Missy is in." He paused. Usually he would call it the shitter, much to his mom's dismay, but it didn't seem right for Sissy to talk that way. "The little girl's room?" the delivery girl asked, seeing him struggling for the right word. "Yeah," Louis nodded. "Okay, well, here is your dinner." She pulled a paper bag out of her carrier and handed that over. Louis took it but then had to put it down just inside the door as she handed him a tray with 3 drinks. "Be careful now. You wouldn't want to get anything on your pretty dress." He could feel his face going red. First he curtsied to her and then here she was talking about his pretty dress. "Thank you, miss," he mumbled as he stepped back from the door. "You're welcome, princess," she called as she walked away. She said it louder than Louis was comfortable with. He couldn't help but glance around to see if any of the neighbors were outside. Had anyone else seen him like this? Fortunately, it didn't seem like they had. He closed the door and carried the drinks into the living room. When he went back for the food he'd put down by the door, Missy was coming back and she was carrying something in her hands. It looked like another dress. "Here, that dress is special and it has to be dry cleaned if you spill anything on it, so put this on instead." Louis went back to Missy's room and was relieved to take off this dress. Even if it was to put on a different dress, this one was a lot simpler. In fact, as he got ready to put it on, he realized this wasn't even a proper dress, it was a nightgown. It was cotton and would come down to below his knees. The cuffs and bottom of the dress had a frill and on the chest was a picture of a group of Disney princesses, but it was way less fancy than the flower girl dress. He didn't even need the slip with this nightie. He went back and they ate dinner while watching the movie. The girls obviously knew the movie well because they were singing gleefully along with every song. The main song had gotten so much radio play that even Louis knew it, so he joined in with his sisters. Ordinarily, he might have felt uncomfortable singing with a Disney princess song, but given that he was wearing a nightgown with her picture on it, he guessed it was okay. The movie was really good after all. The strangest thing though was Louis found himself during the movie noticing the dresses the girls were wearing. He even wondered what it would be like to wear one of them before he caught himself and stopped that line of thought. This must be why boys didn't watch these movies. They started giving them weird thoughts. After the movie, Louis looked at the time. It was a little past 7 o'clock. He had almost 2 hours until his bedtime. "So what are we gonna do now?" The girls shared a glance that Louis couldn't quite read. "Well, we didn't really finish our game of makeover. 2 outfits isn't a very good game. I'll let you choose. Do you want to keep playing makeover, or do you want to find something else to do?" Louis thought anything had to be better than playing more makeover, right? But really, was wearing a dress so bad? Missy and Prissy each still had 1 forfeit they could cash in. Could they find something worse than making him wear their clothes and taking pictures? He couldn't think of anything worse, but that didn't mean they couldn't. "I guess if we didn't finish we have to play more makeover, right? I mean, otherwise I haven't completed my forfeit." That was the safest option. Let them play makeover and blame it on the forfeit rules. Both girls hugged him from either side excitedly. What was the big deal? He wasn't doing this because he wanted to wear a dress. "You messed up your lipstick eating, Cecilia. Let's fix that." They rushed him back up to Prissy's bedroom and sat him down to touch up his makeup. While Missy wiped off his lipstick and reapplied it, Prissy pulled the top she had been wearing earlier out of the laundry hamper and grabbed a pleated denim skirt from the dresser. Since the new outfit was two-toned blue and pretty plain, it didn't really match with the fancy white shoes. "You don't have to wear the shoes anymore," she said, and even helped Louis take them off. "Thanks," he said. "You can put your top back on if you want." Seeing her bra had lost its specialness over the last couple hours, decided that he should be glad that the girls hadn't put one on him. "Not while you're wearing it, I can't," she giggled. They then took a bunch of pictures of Sissy in the new outfit, including blowing a kiss to the camera and the stereotypical teen girl lying on her stomach, talking on the phone shot with his legs curled back in the air. "This shit is the best," Missy declared, but still they had Sissy dress up in several more outfits. For the last outfit, Missy brought out an old swimsuit of hers. It was pink and had a ruffle around the waist. Louis had to draw the line there. I can't wear that. You'd be able to see my, bulge. Both girls pleaded, but Louis held his ground. He was worried that one of them would use their last forfeit to force him to wear the swimsuit, but in the end Missy shrugged. Maybe next time Sissy comes over to play. There's not going to be a next time, Louis insisted. He wondered if he sounded more convincing to them than he did to himself. We'll see. Now you know we promised your mom you would be in bed by 9, and it is almost that time. It couldn't be. Had they really spent more than an hour and a half dressing up and taking pictures? He couldn't believe it, but the clock on his phone confirmed the time. I have just enough time to cash in my last forfeit, Prissy said. Now close your eyes. Louis did as he was told. What could she be up to? He would be worried about her taking his picture if the two of them hadn't already taken like 100. Was she getting something else she wanted him to wear? Everything else had been a single dare. What could be bad enough that it had to be its own forfeit? Then he felt Prissy's hands on his arms, and a moment later something soft pressed against his lips. His eyes flew open in wild surprise, and Prissy's face was impossibly close to his. This was it. This was his first kiss with a girl. It felt weird, but it felt good too. They stayed like that a minute, just pressing their lips together, and then Prissy pulled away. Louis felt lightheaded, and he stopped breathing during the kiss. It felt like it. Prissy was standing there, her face red. She hurried out of the room but stopped at the doorway to turn back towards him. Good night, Sissy. Then she was off down the hall. Louis just stood there stunned for a moment before Missy took him by the arm. For a second Louis wondered if she was going to kiss him too, but she tugged him toward the hallway. Come on, Sissy, you need to have a shower before you go to bed. We don't want makeup on your pillow. Everything that had happened tonight tumbled around his head as he scrubbed himself, especially his face. He wondered if he would get a boner like they had talked about in health class, but nothing like that had ever happened to him before. When he was done, he toweled himself dry before he stepped out of the shower. It was at this point that he realized he had forgotten his clothes in the other room. There was nothing in this room to wear except the last dress he'd been wearing. It was strange. After spending the entire evening wearing girls' clothes, he looked down at the dress lying on the bathroom floor. It was a light fabric with flowers on it and sleeves like a t-shirt. Still, it was the dress or a towel. Any other day he would have taken the towel. He would have walked out of the room naked before he even considered putting on a dress. And yet, he couldn't brush aside the idea completely. On a strictly logical level, the dress would cover more of him, from his neck to his knees, but something inside still couldn't give in. He jumped at a sudden knock on the door. You all right in there? He was pretty sure it was Missy speaking, but it was hard to tell without clothing cues. Need something to wear? Clearly she had noticed his clothes back in her sister's room. Yeah, thanks. Louis cracked open the door enough that he could reach his hand out while still hiding behind the door. Something was placed into his hand, but it didn't feel like his jeans. It was definitely not jeans he found himself staring at when he pulled his hand back in and closed the door. It was the nightie he had worn while they ate dinner. Not seeing many other options, Louis slipped the nightie over his head and walked out of the bathroom. Missy? I'm in my room, come here. Louis walked in to find her facing away from him making her bed. Very funny, he said sarcastically. Now where are my clothes? Whatever do you mean, Sissy? No more Sissy. I'll sleep in my jeans till my mom gets here. Now where are they? Aren't you forgetting something? I still have a forfeit. You can't be serious. What would my mom say if I was wearing your nightgown when she comes to get me? I'll convince her to leave you sleep here in my bed. Prissy and I can share. And what if she doesn't go for it? I'll make something up. I'll tell her you spilled a soda pop on your clothes so they had to be washed. I'll even do a load of laundry to make it believable. Louis groaned. You really want me to do this? Yup. Now come lay down so I can tuck you in. Louis climbed into the bed and she pulled the covers over him. Missy placed his phone on the nightstand. I know you aren't supposed to have your phone in bed, but I think I can look the other way. Just make sure you are off before 10. I'll be checking to make sure." Then Missy turned off the light on her way out. Louis grabbed his phone and saw he had received an email notification. He'd been added to a cloud photo group inconspicuously named Three Sisters. He brought it up, and there they were, all the photos the girls had taken of Sissy. She was so pretty, Louis just couldn't believe it. He was almost falling in love with her, but that was impossible. He was her. And besides, there was the whole thing with Prissy and the kiss. Why had she wanted to kiss him? Did she like him? Did she like Sissy? The picture of Sissy on the phone really was a good one of the best for sure, like Missy had said. Still, the first dress was definitely the prettiest, even if he hadn't appreciated it at the time. Seeing the strange but familiar girl wearing the dress gave him funny feelings. There really was nearly 100 photos, and Louis looked through them all 3 times. Finally, he started thinking back to the swimsuit. Missy had implied he could wear it sometime. Had she meant it? Was there a way he could wear it and not show his package? He wasn't sure, but the internet would know. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Missy left Sissy to sleep but didn't fully close the door so she could check back in on her younger sibling. She went downstairs and found Prissy sitting on the couch looking at her laptop. A portable memory stick was plugged into the USB. "Are you looking at that weird thing again? You had better put it back before Mom and Dad get home." Missy had been the one to find the key. She'd been rustling through Mom and Dad's room one of the times they were home alone, looking for anything interesting. Parents always is the cool stuff from kids. The key had been taped to the bottom of one of the dresser drawers, and Missy immediately knew that it would open the locked wardrobe that sat in the corner of the bedroom, so she fetched her twin sister as fast as possible and they opened it up. Inside had been clothes. It seemed obvious that there would be clothes in a wardrobe, but these were weird, costumes and dresses like nothing the girls had ever seen before, certainly not on their mom. There was also the duffel bags Mom and Dad took on their other weekly night out with Louis's mom, Ms. Hickens, but sitting on a shelf inside, all by itself, was a flash drive that Prissy was now looking through again. Missy peeked over her sibling's shoulder. She'd seen all the photos on the drive but wondered which ones Prissy was looking at. It was Mom wearing one of the weird dresses from upstairs, black and shiny with molded cups like a bra. It only just came down to her thighs. Ms. Hickens was wearing the same dress but in red, and the two of them were kissing. This wasn't like the kiss Prissy and Sissy had shared though. Their mouths were open and they were sticking their tongues into each other's mouth. That wasn't even the weirdest part. Mom was holding a riding crop and Ms. Hickens a paddle, and kneeling on the floor in front of them was a girl in a maid dress. But it wasn't really a girl, it was their dad. "That is gross," Missy sneered, turning away. "Why did you kiss him anyway?" "I dunno, I just thought she looked cute, didn't you?" Missy shrugged. "I dunno, not really. I knew she'd be cute. As soon as I saw this album I couldn't stop thinking about how cute Sissy would be." "Alright, well, I helped play your game. Now in the future, can you leave me out of your weirdness?" Prissy wasn't really paying attention to her sister. She had closed the photo of their parents and neighbor and was instead flipping through the photo album of pictures they had taken that night.